hello, and welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina Brown, and I love this show because we talk about living a life that's in alignment with your hopes, your dreams, and your goals. And I created this podcast because I had worked with hundreds and hundreds of people who were going through cancer and talked about how they would live a life once they have gone through and overcame their cancer. And for some people, that opportunity never came. And so I decided to create this podcast so we can make those changes right now today, because today is a great day to make those changes and live your best life. I also created fitafterbreastcancer.com because there's just a gap in information for those going through that type of specific cancer. So I urge you to check that out as well. Today, my guest is Donna Tashjian. My guest today is Donna Tashjian, who really loves to talk about how you were designed for greatness, for purpose, and that you have a lot of self-worth. So I invite you for today's show. Good morning, Donna. Thank you for being on In the Rising podcast. I am really excited to speak with you today.
I have been looking forward to this too, Bettina. How are you today?
I am doing really well. You know, technical stuff is aside, I'm just going with the flow. I am going with the flow. And thank you for your patience. So, Donna, you are quite a profound person. You really, in your bio, as I read, you really have overcome a lot of things. And you said you struggled with your belief systems around money. You also were a teenage mom. It sounds like when you talk about here, you had hopelessness, shame, fear. And I always talk about leaving behind the shame blame game that just pulls you back. How did you migrate or navigate your experiences early on to be the Donna today?
We asked such a profound question. And then I'm like, how many days do you have?
I know I'm like, loaded question. 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness. It was a journey. The main component that propelled me, I think, quicker to where I am, where I began to be getting rid of shame, is my faith. That was a big component for me. And learning now, I have created this wonderful step system of this is how you can do this. But when I was walking through it, I had no idea. Remember, I was 15. And so figuring out how to become an adult overnight and all of the components there and all of the emotional, I often say that when we're a teenager, whatever we feel as an adult, it's multiplied like times 1,000. I don't know exactly why that is, but the emotional component that was going on there was really, only word I say is hard, and it doesn't cut it. It's like, that's not big enough. But learning to be able to believe who I really was, for me, who God says I am, as opposed to what the appearances looked like or what other people might have said, or the judgment that I felt for what was going on, and learning how to forgive. That was another big part of that whole process.
You shared learning how to forgive. The first thought that came to mind was learning to forgive yourself, not just others. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's always, and sometimes that's harder because we might move away from that other person or situation that we need to forgive, but we wake up with ourselves every day.
Yes, there's no getting away.
There's no getting away from it. And so sometimes it's a little bit more in your face through it all. So yes, learning, but it isn't so much that we need to necessarily learn. It's just really understanding what forgiveness is, and then walking that through.
Yes. And you said faith was your foundation. And, for many of us, we have grown up with some sort of belief system. Was that very strong? Were there strong examples that you could see and feel? Or was this something that you knew just it was drawn to you and you were drawn to it?
There was some of both. There was an example of of what how to connect with God, and but also at the same point of it all, in the environment I was in, there was still a lot of judgment in the decade I was in that was also not okay at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that faith and belief in God, some people believe that we are supposed to struggle. We are supposed to have that pain, and we're supposed to have this kind of rough life now because of a beautiful life later. What are your thoughts on your belief system and faith?
Well, that's not mine. No, I don't believe we're supposed to have a hard time or struggle. There's enough of that in the world without having to believe for it. So no, my faith in God he's the answer out of this things that are going on in the world, not the cause. And so that was a big component in the way that I like to say it is, my faith is a relationship, not a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, what I mean by that is religion is a bunch of rules that we never seem to live up to. We're never quite good enough. And a loving relationship means even when I have bad days or mess up, I'm still loved.
Mm-hmm.
And that made a huge difference. And through that process of growing up quickly and over the years, I began to really know that. When I was first married, I didn't even believe. I mean, I believed that my husband said he loved me, but I didn't know if he would continue. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so we just celebrated our 38th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And it became, as we grew through this and I learned to really receive love, he was a huge example of what that looked like. And he would say, "You look pretty today." And I would say, "What?" And it was kind of our joke because he knew I needed to hear it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. What? I love you. What? And so that he would continue to tell me until I could figure out how to believe it. So there's a lot of things that are true about ourselves, that we are loved, that we are precious, that we have a purpose, that we are talented and beautiful and gifts, but we have sometimes a hard time believing it.
To acknowledge and receive that and go with it from there.
Right.
Versus having to start over where we think we may have to.
Right.
So it also sounds, well, congratulations, by the way, that's a great deal to be with someone and share a life for that length of time and work through a lot of things that there are to work through. When you're going through these emotions, did you feel that you had other people to talk to, such as a mentor or a counselor or something through your church to overcome from the what to yes?
Not prior to getting married. I did not. It was just me. So other than what I read, I was a very big reader. But later on, after my husband and I got married, and then we got involved in a church at that time that provided that kind of support. So it wasn't initially. Initially, it was pretty much just me and God. There wasn't anybody else. There wasn't anybody to talk to. And it was very lonely time as far as the social aspect goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And from where you are today as a speaker and host and founder of Vibrant Living International, just the title, Vibrant Living, from a place of where you felt undeserving or not sure that you could be loved and that you were pretty. You're an author as well and a podcast host. Where would this desire to create Vibrant Living International?
I've always had a passion, as long as I can remember, to empower women. I believe, not that I don't think men are, but I think women are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not aware, most of us, of how amazing we are. So helping women to empower women, spirit, soul, and body. One of my programs is called Turn Your Baggage into Luggage. So you can have the life you've always dreamed. And so this whole desire came from deep within me to help us to be all that we can be, and having a system that's affecting thousands of women around the world to live vibrantly. It's changing. Women have much more influence than we realize. You change a woman and you change her whole family. Mm-hmm. You change the community around her. It's phenomenal. And it I don't even have the words to describe how amazing and vibrant I think that all is.
Yeah. And I like the way you phrase that, their program, your baggage into luggage, because the reality is we all carry something.
Yes, we do.
And that's just the way that's what I believe your experiences you carry, whether they are positive or what we call negative, or something that transitions you, it is still something that you carry with you, including your gifts. And I really like how you talk about this as luggage, because just saying baggage, it has a different feel, like my shoulders slump. Mm-hmm. And when I say luggage, I feel like I'm going on a trip. Mm-hmm. So I really like that wordage. What would be one thing that you feel in your work with women and speaking and podcasting that women really feel is the most luggage you see? Is there one thing that tends to be the baggage, for most women?
The number one thing women always ask for is, I want to have confidence. Mm-hmm. And that equates to some sentences like, I want to love myself more. But that I think every single woman I talk to wants to be more confident. And one of the unique things about confidence is it is a capability that we build over time. It is not something we magically feel. Mm-hmm. And so often we think, if I just read this book, or if I just would make this changes, if I could just flip a light switch, I would be confident. And confident is something that you build as you continue to grow, as you make mistakes, as you learn from those. One of my paradigms that I share is there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. So it's just learning to grow, and it's being courageous through it all.
Yes, and I feel that you can be mentored through and by many people. Some are within your social circle.
Absolutely.
And some are not, and some are alive and some are not, like through books, right? You can receive that. And it was, I did hear this from like the context is that, we may call it failure, but to recognize the courage it took to do this activity, belief, or put yourself out there in the first place. And then at some point, you gain this confidence to keep doing it. And eventually things work. It has to.
And I agree. One of the biggest things that affected me is when the real transformation happened is when I went from just a mentor to having a coach. Mm-hmm. And so learning that, but everybody along the way was an influence. Yeah. And so I totally agree with that. We all need that support. We weren't meant to do this alone.
No. No, we're not. And I'm glad that you talked about mentor and coach, because if there's one theme from In the Rising podcast that has just come across, is the importance of having another individual. And there is a difference between mentor and coach, but share how what your belief is on the importance of having that individual provide feedback.
Oh, well, every idea I have in my own mind is amazing. Oh, and it isn't always amazing. And one of the other amazing things about my coaches is as I talk them through, sometimes I understand it's not amazing. And so being able to, and then the asking questions helps to dive deeper into subjects or how I'm feeling, which is a big component, is what am I believing, and all of those kind of deeper questions that coaches get into. But learning to know that when we can have someone that is a bit disassociated from our mess, if you will, they can see things we don't see. And even the best, anyone, if you look at any successful person, I don't care what, from sports to singing to actors, everyone, business people, everyone has a coach that's highly successful. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we take advantage of the knowledge and the faster growth that we can occur when we have someone like that in our lives?
Yes. And I think what you said is important, faster, because we still have a finite time, right? Our lifespan, maybe 60, maybe 70, maybe 100, but it's still finite. And if you really want to do all the things that you were designed for, just having a better system and strategy with feedback from that person to help weed out your good ideas to the great ones and how to make them happen.
I don't want to learn the hard way. I don't want to learn the hard way. I want to learn from other people's mistakes so I can succeed and do all that's in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also have a podcast, You Were Designed for Greatness. Share a little bit where people can listen to that as well.
It is on all the social media platforms. Again, it's You Were Designed for Greatness. I'm probably in January going through a little bit of a name change, but it'll still be there. And it is a podcast of victorious stories, women and myself sharing tools, strategies, and stories of overcoming. I have the same type of time frame. I keep my podcast to about 15 minutes for the same reason. Women are busy, and I'll get into an hour podcast and never be able to finish it.
Yeah.
And so I do the same thing. So it's quick moments of inspiration of women telling their struggles and their triumphs.
Wonderful. And people would like to know more about Donna. They're like, she's on to something. I feel like what she says resonates with me. How can you be found?
The easiest way to find all about me is my website, and that is the letter I, vibrantliving.com. I'm also on all social media platforms, except for a couple, but most of them.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. We have to figure out our time.
Yes.
What do you, I know you said you're going through a name change, but one of my favorite questions to ask people that have given me their time is, what do you still see yourself rising up to? What is on the horizon for Donna?
I want to go back to speaking and expand those stages. That's one of the things that I know that's on the horizon. The world changed in the last couple years, so figuring out how that looks and what that looks like, and just growing my team so that we can reach more women.
Wonderful. And what a noble and honorable thing. And I bet it gives you a lot of peace and a lot of drive to just keep going because you're reaching so many.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, Donna, thank you so much for your time. Thank you also for your patience while I had whatever technical issues on this Monday morning that I was having earlier. So I'm very grateful for your time. And it really is an honor to see someone pushing to help women as much as you do. That is like a huge nudge for me as well. So thank you again.
My pleasure.
Listening to Donna talk, I thought about something that she said. And one thing was that if you can change the life of one woman, if you can change the life of one person, you change their family and you change their community. And I wanted to expand that to if you take the time to invest and really put yourself first, really emphasize on what makes you feel great, you by default create an environment around you that continues to rise up. And so that's important too. It doesn't mean we have to do these great major things, although that is cool, but just changing yourself changes your environment and it puts a safe space for others. So I want to thank you so much for listening today because you know what? Time is something we don't get back. I also ask that if you like this podcast, that you share it, putting it in the hands and ears of someone that it can make a difference for. I'd also like you to leave your heartfelt review and tell me how you think at Bettina@intherising.com. And until next time, let's keep building one another up.